The story opens with Loa Foyle, a 19-year-old boy at level 10. Blood and bruises cover him as he holds a sword. He appears to have defeated something, which is an accomplishment. He is happy about it. And a guild appears in the Foyle village. The same boy bursts into the guild and tells everyone there he has finally beaten 2 slimes. Silence falls in the guild. Then everyone laughs at him, mocking him for getting bruises just from slimes and saying he wouldn't even earn an F. He warns that the slimes can bite if they get serious, but the others keep mocking him. Just like everyone used to make fun of Naruto. They do not realize the real challenge because they easily defeat slimes, and unfazed by their mockery, Loa goes to the guild employee and tells them he also won 2 magic gems he believes are worth 1 million mers. An employee pulls him back to reality and reveals he only gets 3 mers. Loa pleads with him for more mers because 3 is not enough for a proper meal. The employee refuses, saying that's just how business works. Disappointed, Loa settles for grass and bugs for dinner. The employee requests an update on his current status. He says he used to be level 25, but now he's level 10. He asks Loa about consuming his levels, and Loa says he had to in order to defeat the slime. After his sword broke, he had to use up his levels to forge a new one. Loa has a rare ability to create items by spending his own levels, but it offers him little benefit. The other person acknowledges this but gives only a half-hearted thanks, which irritates Loa. Spending levels to craft items prevents him from saving them and from becoming a merchant. While crafting items, he gets weaker so he can't join parties. Loa is depressed because he can't earn money or get enough experience. Every day he fights weak monsters to level up, but he never grows strong enough. Even when he cries out, he stays a good person. The wind picks up and everyone seems to know why. Carter, a boy, steps forward and starts mocking Loa. People in the guild are annoyed by his presence and shout at him because they already warned him not to use magic there. Ignoring their warning, Carter acts like a spoiled boy showing off his parents' wealth, refuses to be ordered around, boasts that his father runs the village's only item shop, and irritates everyone. Mocking Loa, he says Loa can't use magic the way he can. He had to spend his levels just to create a single. Laughing, he says he has many swords like the one Loa made. Labeled a spoiled brat, Loa stays calm in the face of Carter's mockery and says he does not necessarily hate his skill. He says he always treasured the things he bought with his own money as a child. He believes it is meaningful to gain something by giving up something precious. Carter is infuriated by his calm demeanor. Loa is leaving when the clerk reminds him about his 3 mers. He nearly forgets his reward. Those mers let him buy at least some salt. He leaves behind an irritated Carter whose dislike for Loa only grows. As he walks through the tunnel, Loa thinks that no matter what anyone says, he will keep using. With no other choice, he draws his sword and begins cutting down the slimes in the tunnel. Levels alone won't make you stronger. Skills matter too. You earn skill points when you level up, and you can use them to learn skills and magic. Loa's item creation skill makes his level fluctuate, so he cannot gain skill points. Leveling up won't let him learn any magic or skills. To grow stronger, he trains hard with his sword, and Loa defeats all the monsters. Finally, he reaches level 49. At this level, he can probably defeat the lower-level monster, but he could die if he makes a mistake. Defeating the monster could end his long run of earning almost nothing, and as he moves forward, he thinks it over. A barrier blocks his path. The dungeon boss waits beyond it. Entering the barrier traps you until you kill the monster. Loa may not win, but he accepts the challenge, hoping that killing the monster will end his miserable life. He steps into the barrier. The moment he steps into the dungeon what happens if the boss appears behind him and attacks? The dungeon boss is a skeleton swordsman who looks like similar to Brooks's brother. The recommended level is 50. It's close to Loa's level. Loa strikes back with his sword, but the dungeon boss dodges the attack. Loa sees the boss is stronger than the mobs he's faced. He keeps going because he has endured many hardships, strikes the dungeon boss with enthusiasm. At last, he defeats the dungeon boss with his sword. Loa can hardly believe he won and is thrilled to have finally defeated a monster. A notification tells him his level has increased and he has gained a new skill, known as magic creation. The next day, he arrives at the guild and places the bag containing the bag. Place the gems in front of the clerk for the exchange. I was surprised to see him bring so many gems. Loa is also happy to finally get a proper meal tonight. After a while, Loa sits in the cabin. Cafeteria of Foyle Village are enjoying a proper meal. The meal is modest. It's only bread, soup, and jerky. but our poor boy has waited many days for this and savors every bite with tears in his eyes. People around him see him as pathetic. While eating, he thinks about the new skill he gained yesterday after defeating the monster. I tested it in the dungeon and found it to be a high-quality skill. He performs well. He's quietly eating his food when the spoiled Carter shows up again. Someone begins to annoy him by taking his jerky without permission. Shouts at him briefly, then remembers he should ignore him. Carter probably thinks he can kick Loa out whenever he wants. Carter asks him about the guild news that Loa has many gems. Loa confirms he earned those magical gems by defeating the monsters. Suddenly, Carter grabs his hand and tells everyone he got those gems from the shop. He accuses Love. Carter's father listened to this. With one eye covered by a patch, he points his sword at Loa and declares that thieves deserve death. He is taken aback by the sudden shift in atmosphere and asks what's going on. The man tells him not to play dumb because some magical gems have disappeared from the shop. Carter blames Loa for the robbery. Loa tries to explain, but Carter cuts him off, saying Loa couldn't have gotten all those magical gems on his own. Prevents him from making false accusations. Carter suddenly knocks all the food to the ground with his wind bullet and warns Loa not to play dumb, or Loa will be the next target. He grabs Loa down by someone grabs his collar and demands he surrender, but Loa insists he didn't do anything. Carter admits Loa is innocent, but there is a big reward for catching the real culprit. Carter's group is short on cash, so he wants the money. No matter how much Loa pleads, he has no proof to show he's innocent. Carter tells him that he stole the gems, then pushes Loa toward his father to take him to the guards. Suddenly, Loa pulls his hand back from Carter and asks with a smile if the person who catches the culprit will win a grand prize. Suddenly, magic surrounds Loa, tells them he did not steal the gems and that he earned them. Carter is stunned that Loa is using magic now and include the D-rank flame spear as well. People are shocked to see Loa use magic. After defeating the dungeon boss, he stayed in the dungeon a little longer to practice his new skill, magic creation. Earlier in the dungeon, when he opened his status window, many new elements for creating magic appeared. Many spell-like effects were present. Examples include magic fireball and water cannon, each costing 50 levels and using 250 MP. Loa realized this new skill is like his previous item creation skill because both require trading levels, so he can benefit from that. She will also learn to use magic. Until now, Loa could only obtain items. Reclaiming levels was very hard. Now he can easily defeat monsters with magic, which makes regaining levels easier. He felt excited but calming himself. He sat down to decide which type of magic to use. He settled on fire magic after weighing several styles. It cost 250 MP, so he could use it only once because Loa had about 260 MP. Luckily, many other spells cost less MP. He chose Fire Spear as his first magic, which costs 40 MP. He used all his remaining magic levels because the spells he cast each day cost only about 1 level. Having learned all the low-level, low-cost spells, he finally decided to use magic against the small monsters. A small level 32 monster appeared, looking like a cute cat. Appearances can sometimes be deceiving. Suddenly it became a huge wolf and attacked Loa. It startled him because he wasn't mentally prepared. Reluctantly, he used a Fire Spear, took down the monster with a single shot. Loa was thrilled to have taken down a level 32 monster with a single strike, and learned that a powerful spell could defeat an enemy as long as it landed, despite large level differences. He got a notification saying he earned experience for defeating the monster, and that his level, it rose from 1 to 11. Finally, he was thrilled to feel himself getting stronger. He was determined to use his magical creation to excel at magic. Back in the cafeteria, Carter finally changed his tone, apologized to Loa, and asked him to stop using magic. He asked to be forgiven for falsely accusing him. Seeing him apologize, Loa stopped using his magic, saying he didn't want to cause a ruckus and only wanted to share what Carter had whispered to him earlier. Carter acknowledged it and started to speak. Without warning, he blamed the guild counterperson who had seen the entire theft of the magic gems, and that person retaliated. The argument left Loa stunned by Carter's behavior. When Carter cheerfully asked if Loa was all right, Loa grew angrier, frustrated that Carter had blamed someone else for the theft and lied. The guild employee defends himself, stay tuned, that he stole nothing. Carter and St. John did, by placing the blame on him. Thinking he can punish the employee, he uses a gust of wind to attack the innocent man. Loa finally snaps and blocks Carter's magic with his own. He wanted Carter to let him handle the situation, but Carter leaves him no choice, so Loa takes matters into his own hands. Everyone present paid attention. He demonstrates his everyday magic of recording and playback. Seeing the magic, everyone finally learns about the earlier conversation between the two. After this revelation, everyone realizes that Carter is the real culprit. Someone comes up behind him, grabs him, and strikes him. They appreciate Loa for his efforts, and their cheers make him realize that they also feel contempt for Carter. Loa is relieved he will no longer be looked down on. Everyone, including the guild staff, gathers around him to praise his work. The next day at the guild, Loa notices that everyone's behavior has completely changed. Some want him to join their party, while others want to fight him. Loa turns down their offers, saying he prefers not to team up with anyone. Joining the party would be a great move, he believes. That would split the EXP among members and hinder his skill development. Seeks to gain experience on their own and advance quickly. Walking up to the counter, he finds a staff member waiting. The staff member asks Loa for his guild car. Congratulate him on his promotion from F rank to E rank. He's confused about his promotion. Loa learns an adventurer's rank depends on their contribution to the guild and real strength. His actions in the cafeteria the day before earned him the promotion. The staff member lowers a hand. His new guild card, which has been moving from iron to bronze. Still in disbelief at his promotion, Loa accepts it and eagerly rubs it against his face, thinking he may be the only one who spent so much time just to reach an E rank. The staff member smiles. He won't have to see Loa covered in bruises from fighting slimes anymore. Grinning like an idiot, he proudly holds his E rank card. Now the E rank adventurer decides to hunt some monsters. Pondering this, he hears people behind him and turns to see an adventuring party battling goblins. Members of the party are instructing Sonia, one of their members, to join the party. Assume the role of the tank. The tank's role is to block enemy attacks. Sonia, dirt-covered, lists the Loa watches them, hearing more criticism than instruction, and finding their teamwork weak. He sees Sonia shielding a teammate from the goblin, appearing frail and ill-suited for frontline combat, yet doing her best to draw the enemy's attention. He can't understand why the other members are frustrated with her. Sighing, he decides it's none of his business and walks away. Meanwhile, a god watched. Blinn attacks Sonia from behind, taking her by surprise. Her teammates warn her about the goblin, but it's already too late. A goblin attacks Sonia, and she sees no way out, closing her eyes in despair. As the goblin draws near, Loa's fire spear magic suddenly sends him flying. Sonia is surprised and thinks one of the girls at the party saved her, so she thanks the girl, but the girl says she didn't do anything. Innocent Sonia keeps expressing thanks, giving the girl a chance to rise, so she proudly accepts and asks Sonia to bow before her. Observing their interaction, Loa is relieved they didn't notice him and starts to walk away, not wanting them to be angry with him for interfering. He believes all adventurers are ready for any danger, and since they earn many rewards, they dislike anyone meddling in their affairs. Sonia would have been torn to pieces if Loa had not saved her in time. Checking the status window, he sees he has used up a large part of his magical creation didn't overwrite his previous magic, so he keeps both unique skills and can still use his item creation skill to its fullest. He uses this skill to make MP restoration medicine, which costs about 20 levels, leaving him with 30 levels from his original 50. He uses the remaining levels to create magic and crafts an item box that can hold up to 150 items in an alternate space. He puts the MP restoration medicine inside and finds it handy. Restoring MP is difficult and costs levels, so MP restoration medicine will be useful. He decides to keep leveling up and stockpile as many MP restoration medicines as possible. For the next 3 days, he battles monsters and stocks up on MP recovery items. By the 4th day, he had collected about 100 MP restoring potions, easing his worries about his MP. After some time, he goes down into the E-rank dungeon to face the boss, but stops when he sees someone he knows behind the barrier. Sonia stands with her shield, facing a massive level 100 monster called King Frog. Surprised by its size, Loa assumes it's the dungeon boss. The monster lashes its tongue at Sonia, and she blocks it with her shield. Loa is baffled that she's fighting a massive monster alone despite being in a party. Facing it alone, she won't win. He starts to step forward to help her, then hesitates because she is an adventurer and should be equipped for this. After all, he feels the same way, and he wouldn't want anyone's help either. which is how he got this far. She must be like that if she's set on becoming an adventurer. Given that, he begins to walk away. His hidden thoughts challenge this belief. At that moment, he too wanted someone to say. No one came to help, and asking felt pathetic, so he kept going to hide his weakness. Loa fights to restrain himself, but his true self longs to rescue Sonia. Finally, he rushes at the monster, putting himself between it and Sonia. She steps back to look at him and asks what he is doing. He says he is just an adventurer passing through and now plans to defeat the monster boss. Loa is only level 40, and now regrets acting tough because the monster is at a much higher level. He looks back at Sonia, who can no longer fight, and now that Loa has barged in, he must fight. The monster boss lunges at Loa and he barely dodges. Had that attack hit him, he would have died instantly. As he considers using his magic, the monster boss leans in and presses its eye close to him, frightening him. Activating his flame spear magic takes 4 seconds, and he can't do it while the monster keeps attacking this fast. Sonia sees him struggling and tells him to attack the monster's stomach, its weak point. Loa thanks her but struggles to aim his magic at the stomach. Still, he can manage with his items, so he pulls out his MP restoration medicine, but the monster attacks at the same moment, smashing the medicine, and Loa takes out more medicines. Sonia shouts at him to focus on the attacks, not on the restoration. It reassures her that everything is fine and proceeding as planned. He somehow gets close to the monster and breaks the medicine right in front of its eyes, causing it to close its eyes and give the lowest. At the same time, he activates it. After 4 seconds, he attacks the monster and defeats it. Sonia looks surprised by the magic. So Loa explains that he wasn't trying to drink the restoration potions, but to reduce friction on the floor. Proudly, he says it's hard to look cool. Sonia thanks him through tears and points out he has shards of glass in his back. Our male lead pays little attention to. Loa receives a notification that he gained experience for defeating a monster, and his level rose from 40 to 70. Loa is excited to see he just gained 30 levels. He has earned the name Loa, the dungeon traveler. Sonia collapses behind him without warning, and Loa reaches out to steady her. Her condition is very bad because she has been fighting well before Loa arrived. He takes out his MP restoration medicine. He asks if she can drink. Sonia refuses, saying it is too luxurious for her. Loa makes her drink on purpose because it does not cost him much. Feeling instantly better, Sonia stands to thank Loa for saving her twice. And when he pretends not to understand, she tells him that seeing his magic made her realize he was the one who saved her from the goblin the other day. Loa apologizes for his earlier interference, but Sonia stops him and says she is very grateful to him. Loa introduces himself, says he learned her name from her party, and asks about her allies, tells him they abandoned her during the fight. Loa can't believe it, and she explains that because she's the party's tank, she alone entered the barrier. When her allies realized they couldn't defeat the monster by themselves, they left her behind and went out. Loa is annoyed that her allies left her behind even though they knew she could die. He asks why she was paired with them, and she says she has a unique skill. Her name is Impenetrable. Because of this, she can gain only defense skills and cannot gain attack skills. So she must fight with the party and endure even the harshest treatment. With tearful eyes and a shy smile, Sonia thanks Loa, saying that if it had not been for him, she would already be dead. Loa is furious because Sonia suffered the same thing, was looked down on for having an inconvenient skill, and was treated even worse than he. Her allies are nothing but snakes, using her as they please. Seeing Loa silent, Sonia calls to him and he tells her to return to the village with him. Her allies are probably eating there as if nothing happened. Loa won't let this go and plans to teach her allies a lesson for how they treated Sonia. At the village guild, Sonia's 2 allies, a girl and a boy, sit back with drinks, talking about how they escaped the dungeon and mocking Sonia for ending up with a deranged monster. Sonia shows up with Loa just as they're teasing her, surprising them both. One of them asks how she survived. The woman interrupts him, starts crying, and rushes at Sonia, saying she is relieved to see her alive. She convinces Sonia she was worried and tried to stop her from crossing the barrier, but Sonia crossed anyway. Annoyed by the girl's behavior, Loa decides to expose their deception because adventurers value their reputation and they won't attract strong members otherwise. He loudly claims that Sonia told him they abandoned her in the dungeon. If he hadn't saved her, she would have died. He mocks them, suggests they would do it again, and calls them awful. The man tells him to slow down, but Loa says that's just how he talks. And the man fires back that they didn't abandon her, adding that even if they had, Loa has no proof. Loa responds by showing the D-rank magic stone he got by defeating the monster, pointing out he only got it by defeating the king frog. He says they would have it too if they had not fled, then blames Loa, claiming he could have made it with his item creation abilities. He goes on to say Sonia was alone because she chose to be. Loa leaves it to the onlookers to judge by Sonia's expression, which sets off whispers from a crowd hostile to Sonia's allies. She smirks and tells the boy that as a low-ranked adventurer he does not need a good reputation, but they do. Furious, the other boy tries to punch Loa, but Loa easily dodges. They counter with equal force. Loa fought for many years without powers, and has the advantage in a fist fight. As a fight is about to break out between them, the guild counterperson strides forward, furious, and steps in. He orders them to take the fight outside, or he will confiscate their guild cards. Sonia pulls Loa out by the hand while he protests that he hasn't finished teaching them their lesson yet. Sonia smiles brightly and tells him she feels better now, thanks him, and Loa accepts her gratitude gladly, feeling the confrontation was worth it. After a while, they sit in the cafeteria, a lavish meal laid out before them, and Sonia offers it all to him, saying she will pay for everything. Drooling at the sight of the high-quality meal, Noah asks if he can indulge, and Sonia gladly replies it's fine because he saved her. Loa digs in, and when he takes a bite, a wave of flavor washes over him. Our poor boy has never tasted food this good. Assuming Sonia is new to the village, he thinks she does not know he recently learned magic. Before then, people had laughed at him. He rescued Sonia, thinking she was like him. He also tells her he initially wanted to leave because he felt he had no right to save her. Changing the subject, he says he'll pay for the meal with the money he got from exchanging the magic stone. After a pause, Sonia says he still saved her despite her weakness. He stayed by her side, so she feels she must repay him even more. She tells Loa that if he agrees, they can form a party. Startled, Loa hesitates when Sonia asks to form a party with him, but he survives. She explains gently that she is a fallen noble who became an adventurer to survive. A shy blush spreads across her cheeks as she says she built herself from nothing, so she feels they are alike and hopes they can move forward together. Loa pauses briefly and admits they're back. The fight with the king frog taught him how tough going it alone is, while traveling next to a sturdy tank like Sonia would give a better balance of offense and defense. As a result, he agrees to join the team. Sonia gladly accepts and promises to repay his kindness. They clink wine glasses to seal the pact. The next morning, Loa is fast asleep when Sonia bursts into his room and announces it's already late, so she was. He will be punished if he does not wake up. With a playful tap from her shield, Loa shoots upright, baffled to find her standing over him. Startled, he demands to know why she's there, and Sonia cheerfully explains their rented rooms are next to each other, and coincidentally, his door was unlocked. Loa groans as he remembers that after trading the magic stone last night, he walked Sonia to her lodge only to learn they were staying at the same place, and he remembers drinking far too much. Sonia asks if he always sleeps this late, and Loa mutters that he's the sleep-in-peace type. She grins and volunteers to wake him every morning. Loa protests he does not want another shield tap, so Sonia laughs and says that in that case he should get up earlier. She teases that his sleeping face is cute. As she leaves, Loa looks at the rumpled covers and briefly regrets the partnership. A short while later, Sonia returns and says she has already delivered the party creation form. Since registered members can view one another's status, Loa checks hers. Her full name is Sonia Clark. She is 17, and her level is 65. He is amazed to see her death listed at 500, nearly 8 times his. Sonia scans his card and praises him for having 2 unique skills. Noticing Loa's confusion, Sonia says she has traveled with many groups but never seen skills like his. Because of that, she thinks he's special. Flustered by the compliment, Loa shrugs it off. Changing the subject, Sonia asks where they should go today. Loa suggests the E-rank dungeon, but says they'll only go if she's comfortable. The village has 1 E-rank and 1 F-rank dungeon. If they defeat both bosses, he will earn another title and hopes Sonia can earn her first as well. Excited, Sonia agrees at once. Sensing her excitement, Loa decides to craft a new spell before they leave. At his current level, one option stands out, so he spends 50 levels to acquire fire. Sonia watches curiously and asks what he just did. So Loa explains that his item creation skill lets him forge anything by consuming levels, and that moments earlier he had 60 levels, but after buying the spell, he has only 10, meaning one solid hit could kill him. Sonia gasps at his casual mention of death, but Loa reassures her he has always worked this way and that everything will be fine. She calls his approach bold and vows to stop any attack aimed at him. Loa smiles and relies on her protection. They step into the dungeon together, eager to test his new spell. 2 monsters attack them in the dungeon. Loa asks Sonia to give him 4 seconds so he can activate his magic. Sonia shields him and moves the monsters to one side. Loa strikes with the fire spear and kills them in a single blow, a hit that impresses Sonia. Loa feels heavy and thanks Sonia, saying it was possible because of her. That makes her feel shy. While thanking each other, another monster appears, and they fight it bravely. After fighting through many monsters, they finally reach the bottom level. Tell Sonia she must kill the monster to gain the title, and she acknowledged it. Confused, she remembers the king frog they killed yesterday was a monster, and worries there may be more, so she asks Loa if he knows where the monsters come from. But he does not. She then explains that monsters form from magical particles in the air, and the denser the particles, the stronger the monsters are. Powerful creatures are common in the dungeon. This means that even though Loa defeated the king frog yesterday, another king frog could spawn. Loa agrees, noticing the barrier is back up in front of the... Loa meets Sonia's eyes as she hesitates at the barrier, and he reassures her he will never run away. Encouraged, Sonia brightens and trusts Loa as they enter the barrier, where the king frog appears, and she tells Loa to start chanting while she blocks it. She's determined to defeat it no matter how many tries it takes. The king frog is even bigger than the one they fought before, but they have changed their approach. The frog attacks, and Sonia blocks it successfully. Impressed that none of the attacks hit him, Loa can try his new spells without worry, and doing so will take 3 minutes. While Loa casts his new spell, Sonia keeps him safe from incoming attacks. A fireball that kills the monster instantly. Surprised by how much effort it took to defeat the monster before, Loa is happy and realizes they should not underestimate a spell that deals 4,000 damage. A notification tells him he defeated a strong enemy, gained bonus EXP, and leveled up from 38 to 50. They give a low 5 for the EXP and for Sonia earning her title, and Sonia happily says they've reached their goals, but the male lead has other motives. Pulling out his knife, he begins stabbing the monster to collect materials he missed because he was too busy talking. Boys really love hunting. He ends up with E and D ranked magic stones. Loa keeps them in his item box, which Sonia finds very convenient. Loa tells Sonia he's leaving Foil Village tomorrow to challenge a D-rank dungeon. At the village cafeteria, they discuss Loa leaving. Sonia says it's better for him to go because his strength would be wasted if he stayed. Loa replies the same is true for her. At levels 78 and 82, they can both go for D-rank promotions. Sonia agrees, but suddenly they both solve. They are unsure where to find D-ranked dungeons. Loa still does not know, even after many years here. Sonia suggests buying information and a map, though a dungeon map would be rare. Loa tells them he knows a place where they will find it. Next, he takes Sonia to the item store. In this scene, Carter, once spoiled, greets Loa. Carter treats him with respect and offers to show the most discounted items, while the male lead, Loa, who had shown Carter his place before, now finds Carter looking pitiful with a completely changed personality as they chat casually. Sonia assumes Carter is a friend of Lois, but Loa says he only comes there when needed. When Carter sees Sonia with Loa, he gets flustered and finally shows his true self, saying he's not jealous but still tells Loa to go and die. And Loa asks if they have maps to the dungeon. Carter replies rudely that they do not, because most adventurers come and take them. Then Carter's father appears behind them and says they do have such maps, which softens Carter's attitude. His father unfolds a map he used as an adventurer. Loa and Sonia are surprised to learn it is handwritten and ask to have it because it seems valuable. And Carter's father says he is giving it to them to apologize for his son's stupidity and because someone strong should have the map. He also mentions to Loa and Sonia that if they plan to go to the dungeon, The best route is to the city of Runbalk in the northeast, which they can reach in 2 days, and they are happy and thank him for the information. They are leaving tomorrow. Notes that the village will be much quieter now. Carter's father says he will wait to see how much Loa has grown when they next meet. The next morning, Sonia pulls the sleepy Loa along as he says he can leave a little later, but she insists it is best to leave in the morning and tells him to walk properly. Loa's eyes showed he was finally leaving the village after going through hell to learn a skill, and when he finally gained it, he wondered why it had appeared now. Finally, his hard work may be paying off. He thanks the Foil village for looking after him. Leaving the village, Loa and Sonia face many weak monsters and defeat them easily, while the magic particles have grown weaker. They must stay alert, because rare buildups of magic particles can still occur, and powerful monsters may appear. Loa mocks the idea that they could be stronger than the dungeon monsters. While they speak, someone suddenly screams. They turn and see a carriage approaching. A little girl calling for help. A monster seems to be chasing her, so they decide to rescue her and assume it will not be scary. Seeing the grisly creature at level 130, they immediately regret their assumptions. Both are terrified. Sonia, trembling, says she'll distract it while Loa begins chanting. Loa, seeing her shake, tells her to calm down because at this distance she won't have to do anything. Casts his fireball. After killing the monster in one shot, Sonia praises Loa and Loa's level rises to 80. The girl from the carriage runs to Loa and throws herself at him, thanking him through tears for saving her life. Introducing herself as Masha, she looks like a lowly character, and Sonia says it's rude to hug someone while crying right after they saved your life. Sonia offers Masha a napkin and tells her to wipe her tears, saying she would look much cuter that way, and Masha thanks Sonia for her kindness. A traveling merchant, she says her familiarity with the route made her drop her guard and miss the magic particles building up, so she headed toward Runbalk before realizing she was going the wrong way. Loa tells her they are going there too, and asks her to give them a ride in her carriage. Masha says she would have been glad to do so. Her carriage is packed with supplies she prepared for the many adventurers and travelers who gather in Runbalk. But our hero has a solution. He keeps all the products in his item box. Masha panics when her products vanish, so Loa calms her, explaining he stored them safely in his item box. Masha gets excited that mages can do that, and Sonia agrees, calling Loa-san impressive because she is the male lead's biggest fan. Loa spreads dry grass on the carriage, clears a spot to lie down, and settles into his favorite thing, sleeping. Masha gets excited again and says mages can get tired after using magic, but Sonia explains Loa is just a sleepyhead. They both climb into the carriage and continue their journey to Runbalk. Sonia and Masha stay busy along the way while our male lead keeps sleeping. When they reach Runbalk, Sonia wakes up lower. Loa is excited by the sight of so many people and buildings. Noticing his amazement, Masha assumes this is his first time in Runbalk and tells him that many adventurers there take on requests. Noah thanks Masha, asks her to stop the carriage, says they'll walk from there, and returns all her items. Masha is impressed and eagerly offers Loa the chance to become a merchant with her, but Sonia, unwilling to give Loa away, hesitantly declines. Masha says goodbye and tells Loa to promote her shop when he becomes a stronger adventurer. Later, Loa and Sonia arrive at an inn and decide to stay there. Sonia suggests they share a room to save money. Loa refuses, saying that even if it costs more, he will book 2 rooms. Sonia insists she is fine sharing one, and Loa declines again, saying he wouldn't be able to sleep because of her cuteness. Loa, calling her cute, flusters Sonia, and the inn employee watching them gets annoyed and tells them to move along if they're just going to flirt. Loa takes the keys and assures Sonia they will earn back the money spent on the inn by going to the dungeon tomorrow, so she does not need to worry. Tanya's hopes of sharing a room with Loa are dashed, and she sulks. Loa can't see why she's upset because he thinks he was only being a gentleman. The next morning, Sonia tells Loa there is a D-ranked dungeon nearby, information she received from the guild while he was sleeping. Loa usually isn't a morning person, but today he looks refreshed thanks to Sonia, and even has a new haircut. Arriving at the D-ranked dungeon, they feel its aura is stronger than in the earlier dungeons. Loa is excited because it's his first time entering a D-ranked dungeon, and Sonia tells him that if things go wrong, He should run and leave her behind since her life belongs to him. She is ready to sacrifice herself. Loa will not abandon her. They both step into the dungeon. The interior looks normal. Sonia says this dungeon used to be an underground sewer, and since monster attributes match their environment, most monsters here are water type. Loa considers that each element has advantages and disadvantages, with an advantageous element dealing double damage, while a disadvantageous one deals only half. Both his fire spear and fireball are ineffective here, so he only gets 2 uses. He has 440 MP, and the great fireball costs 200 MP. He's eager to take on these new monsters. As he thinks this, Sonia warns him that a monster is coming. Loa braces and sees a red armored crab with the recommended level is 150. The crab disappoints him. It strikes with its claw, so Loa tells Sonia to shield him while he casts his spell. Sonia uses her distraction skill to protect him. Vova launches a powerful fireball to attack. One shot won't do, so he fires again. They finally stop the monster and feel relieved, but Loa's MP is almost gone. The crab strikes again, so Sonia, she shields him, buying 10 seconds for him to recover. Loa thanks her and uses an MP restoration potion. After regaining his strength, he casts another massive fireball. He finally defeats the monster, earns bonus EXP, and reaches level 82. After collecting the crystals, Loa says it took 3 shots to kill that monster, so relying on items would slow him down, and Sonia suggests learning lightning magic. Loa agrees and opens his status window, finding a skill he'd been meaning to try called Lightning Javelin. It costs 150 MP and requires level 50. Base damage is a bit lower than the Great Fireball, but it uses less MP and has a shorter cast time, and since this element is advantageous here, it should help. Sonia warns him that learning the spell will drop his level to 32, so a single hit could be fatal. Loa reassures her that she does not need to worry because she is with him. Her task is to pull enemies away from him since that is her specialty. Sonia beams, thanks him, and giggles at the compliment. Loa learns the Lightning Javelin skill, and they go deeper into the dungeon. Heading deeper into the dungeon, Loa and Sonia find it growing darker, so Sonia scoots closer to Loa and says in a cute voice that it might be dangerous. Loa says they should watch their step and brighten the place with his light magic so she does not get scared. Sonia is a bit disappointed, but the scouts chime in that it is cold and they should stay close, and Loa takes care of it by using firewood to start a fire. Someone makes tea to warm up. Sonia keeps failing to get closer to Loa, sitting, feeling sad. After sipping the tea, she finds it delicious and asks Loa what it's made of. Loa tells her he bought it from a farmer with his own money because he thought Sonia, the former noble, might like it. Sonia is impressed and says he is actually a gentleman. Loa asks what she means by actually, and Sonia replies that it is because he is always a sleepyhead. While they talk, a monster appears. It is a squid-like creature that targets ragus and people in relationships and has a recommended level of 155. A tentacle grabs Sonia. Goa quickly throws a lightning javelin. Take down the monster with 1 shot. Reaching level 55, he's pleased by the jump and the shorter casting time, and Sonia thanks him and praises his new magic. Loa says it has weaknesses and deals less damage than the Great Fireball, so he must choose wisely in battle. Loa's face shows how much fun he's having, and Sonia teases him by saying he looks like a teenager. Loa realizes he's enjoying himself more than he expected. Making a face, he asks Sonia if he still looks like a teenager, and tells him not to make strange faces. She describes him as slime twisted like an old rag, which makes no sense to Loa. Later, they go to the guild in Runbalk and present their magic stones. Approach the woman at the counter and ask to exchange them for money. Faced with so many deranged stones, she asks to see their guild cards and then sees a bronze card. She doubts they earned the stones. Loa quickly clarifies he did not steal them. Then she tells them to wait while she calls an appraiser. Loa slumps, frustrated that no one trusted him. Sonia comforts him, saying it's probably just because they're new in town and small parties rarely bring in this many stones. And when Loa still feels hopeless, she tells him he is the strongest. Then the appraiser arrives. Carefully inspecting the stones, he finally smiles, confirming they are genuine and freshly harvested. The counter lady panics, apologizes to Loa, explaining she had never seen low-ranked adventurers with so many stones. Loa sighs again and decides he should slow down in the next town because he overdid it today. The woman at the counter offers to buy the stones at a higher price to apologize, making both Loa and Sonia feel lucky. The appraiser asks whether they really need that much money, and Loa says it's for lodging and frequent travel. He then suggests they try going to the monster's house next. He says it's an area full of monsters that sometimes appears in deranged dungeons. Confident adventurers should try it. For Loa and Sonia, it sounds like a great opportunity to earn more. A while later in the dungeon, Loa's eyes sparkle with excitement as he asks Sonia whether she has ever seen monster houses before. He feels pure joy at the thought of wiping out a huge number of monsters with a single hit. Seeing his excitement, Sonia tells him to calm down, saying he looks like a teenager again. She admits she has never seen a monster house before, but agrees it's a good place to level up. She worries that the large number of enemies could sharply increase Loa's mana use, and Loa reassures her he found a great spell for it last night. He opens his status window and shows her an area of effect spell, Thunderstorm. It costs 400 MP and deals about 151. Impressed by the spell's high base damage, Sonia points out the MP cost is a problem, and Loa agrees he can't afford it right now because he's only level 101, so they can't buy the spell yet. They're in no hurry and can take their time leveling up. As for the mana issue, Loa has a plan. He spends 50 levels on an item called the Ring of Magic and puts it on. Sonia says his hands look pretty and compliments him, but it does not. Dumbfound feels low, but he still thanks her. A monster suddenly appears. They return to fighting and spend several days in the dungeon to raise their levels. On day 1, they collected D-rank magic stones and leveled up. Loa rose from level 51 to 112, while Sonia rose from 115 to 138. Sonia stops getting bonus EXP after reaching level 130 because the monsters are around level 130-150. On the second day they collect more stones, Loa reaches level 150, and Sonia reaches 150 as well, and they disband the party so Loa can solo briefly. He finally reaches level 151. On the third day, Loa thinks he can learn the thunderstorm skill, but realizes he must be level 151 to survive, not just 150, because he can't drop to 0. A red armored crab appears in front of him and reaches level 151. He finally gets thunderstorm and drops back to level 1, but feels no regret because the Ring of Magic provides plenty of mana. Sonia is surprised to find him so cheerful on level 1. She says she wants to see him use the new skill. Loa tries to reassemble the party. Sonia Tutor said he can't send her an invite. Sonia explains the level gap is probably too large. A 100-level difference prevents forming a party because someone might join a high-ranking adventurer just to gain strength. So Loa will have to level up again, and she cheers him on, saying he'll get there, then goes off to lure some monsters nearby. Loa and he remind her to be careful. He can't believe how fast he leveled up in 2 days, especially after grinding so hard in Foil Village to reach level 50, and now wonders what kind of monster he still can't beat. Thinking, he hears Sonia call for help and turns. He sees her running toward him as 8 monsters chase her. Loa quickly begins chanting and tells Sonia to run straight to him. Storm requires 7 seconds to cast. Because it's an AoE spell, he could hit Sonia if his timing is off, but if he waits too long, it will be too late. He times the spell perfectly to match when Sonia will reach him. Seeing Sonia out of stamina, he doubts she can make it. From a distance, Sonia tells Loa to use his magic. She tells him she'll dodge somehow, but seeing her tired, worn-out face, Loa can't bring himself to trust her words. He only needs 2 seconds. When Sonia and the monster get close, Loa calmly tells her to jump over him. The moment she does it, he really reacts, unleashes his thunderstorm spell, striking all the monsters behind her with one powerful blow. Sonia watches, stunned, as they all fall at once. Suddenly, Loa is bombarded with notifications. He has defeated a giant monster and his level has jumped to 110. They are both stunned. Loa cheers loudly with joy at the big accomplishment, and Sonia admires his strength. Everyone was amazed he wiped out 8 monsters in a single attack. Loa was relieved Sonia was unharmed since she rarely makes mistakes like that. Sonia admits she assumed Loa could handle them all, grew overconfident, and drew too many monsters. Loa brushes it off, telling her not to worry because everything worked out in the end. He earned a huge amount of experience points, and the loop is outstanding. He loads everything into his item box. Smiling softly and blushing, Sonia says cleaning a house would be really fun with Loa. Loa tilts his head in confusion, not fully following her. Suddenly, a voice from deeper in the dungeon calls for help, and without wasting a moment, Loa and Sonia dash toward it. They find a man surrounded by monsters and fighting to survive. Spotting Loa and Sonia, he calls out to them for help. He admits he was too reckless and is now trapped with no way out. Loa and Sonia step in quickly. Loa asks Sonia to draw the monsters to a specific distance because he now knows the radius of his area of effect spell. Exactly as instructed, Sonia then unleashes her magic once again, wiping out all the enemies with a single blow. Stunned, the man is speechless, his mouth hanging open at the raw power Loa just displayed. Loa rushes over and asks if he's hurt or bleeding. The stunned man keeps thanking him and stares at the notification screens floating around Loa that show his recent level-ups. The man's shouts and disbelief became overwhelming, so Loa calmly told him to relax. Loa and Sonia sit with the man from the dungeon in the cafeteria. The man exhales in relief, thankful to be alive, and offers to treat them as thanks, saying they can eat as much as they want and that he will cover the whole meal. Tears in his eyes and his heart full, Loa digs into the delicious food in front of him. The man introduces himself as Eric, a D-rank adventurer. Sonia introduces herself politely, then presents Loa. Eric eyes Loa's thin frame and jokes that although Loa looks frail, he must be incredibly strong. Given how powerful his magic was back there, he should have been at least C rank, but Loa casually tells him he's only E rank. Eric nearly chokes on his food, stares in disbelief, then asks Loa whether he is new to adventuring, and Loa says he's been doing it for a while. Sonia explains that Loa's situation is complicated, and Eric listens, puzzled but not judgmental, not the type to look down on them and simply unable to wrap his head around it. Loa changes the subject and asks Eric whether he had a party with him earlier in the dungeon. Eric says he used to. They kicked him out for not meeting their expectations. He tried going solo and got overwhelmed. Loa doesn't know what to say since it's a common story among adventurers. Eric looks down, muttering that maybe his prime days are over. Sonia jumps in and says it's not the end, but just the beginning. Eric laughs and jokingly asks if she'd like to join him in starting a new party. Sonia immediately and bluntly refuses. Eric laughs again and says he was only joking. Greg says lots of D-rank adventurers quit when they hit a wall, and that he's decided he's done playing around. Instead of risking his life in dungeons every day, he plans to open a workshop and make tools, and Loa supports the idea, saying he could still gain EXP from that kind of work. Loa asks Eric if he's been in Runbalk long and if he knows what kind of monster the dungeon boss is. Eric admits he's never made it that far and guesses the boss must be at least C rank, warning Loa that defeating such a boss will need a spell strong enough to beat it in a single hit. Eric suggests they take more guild commissions and focus on raising their ranks first. He warns them not to stand out too much. Strong adventurers quickly become targets, especially shady members of the guild. Loa says he's used to shady types, thinking of Carter, while Eric laughs and teases that his face naturally attracts trouble. So Loa pouts a little, clearly annoyed, and their night ends with a good meal and warm laughter. The next morning, Loa wakes groggy from a deep sleep, and as he stretches, thinking back on the night before, he hears a soft rustle beside him. Loa turns his head and freezes. Sonia sleeps beside him. His eyes widen and he stares, shocked and stunned. Half awake, Sonia stirs in her sleep and smiles at him, sure she's dreaming. Loa jerks upright, startled and uncertain how to react. He checks quickly and sees they are both fully dressed. Relief washes over him as he realizes nothing happened. When Sonia fully wakes and notices her surroundings, her eyes go wide with horror. Her face flushes bright red and she jumps up, flustered. Loa tries to explain that he thinks she carried him back to his room and fell asleep too because she must have been exhausted. Mortified, Sonia realizes it was not a dream. Without a word, she rushes out like a whirlwind and slams the door behind her. Loa stares at the door, completely baffled. He genuinely thought he was being a perfect gentleman and mutters that he really doesn't understand girls. Later that day, they headed to the guild, where the receptionist greets them cheerfully at the counter. She says Eric told her everything about how they saved him with their magic, and teases that it must have been quite a night for them, while Loa looks away awkwardly and Sonia glares. The receptionist asks for their guild cards, checks them, and tallies the magic stones they submitted the day before, then congratulates them both and tells them they've been promoted to D rank. Loa gets his new silver guild card, and his newcomer title changes to mage. The woman behind the counter points to the quest board and tells them to check today's listings. As they move closer to the board, Sonia spots a standout monster house subjugation mission with a massive 150,000 Muir reward. Loa lights up at the amount, but Sonia worries because it lies 6 floors down in the unexplored D-rank dungeon. Loa shrugs off the worry, says he's got plenty of levels today, and accepts the quest. A group of adventurers approaches, one declaring the monster house quest already theirs, scanning Loa and Sonia with obvious contempt and mocking them as the rumored duo. Their opponents try to intimidate the pair, mocking their appearance and saying they won't last in a real fight. Loa narrows his eyes while Sonia stays calm but alert. Tension builds and the air between the groups grows heavier by the second. Loa snaps back, demanding to know what he means by the rumored duo, and the other adventurers say people have been talking about them lately. They are known as the duo where the tank never attacks and the mage clears everything in one shot. Loa apologizes and says he cannot give them the quest because they have been after the monster house for a long time now. An adventurer pulls the quest paper from his hands, saying it's too soon for them to take it, and then panics as his body disappears. Members of the party, whose leader appears to be Jake, hold him back and calm him as a girl in the group tells Loa and Sonia to leave. Confused, they walk out and leave the chaotic trio behind. Somehow, the two of them reach the dungeon's 5th floor. They defeated the monster but are completely worn out. Jake dragged his team along and has been bringing up the rear, and now they're watching from behind a wall. One teammate says they're basically stalkers now, but Jake says he wants to see them cry for underestimating the monster house, and the girl doubts it. Lo is the kind of mage who can wipe everything out in a single blow, and from the way he uses elemental advantages and his attacks, she is sure only mages above C rank can do it. That means he's even stronger than she is. She also finds him attractive. Jake becomes irritated. He says using magic isn't special since they can't use it in Runbalk, refuses to let people compare them to Loa and Sonia, tells the other two they are the #1 team, and they are grateful to be called #1. Loa and Sonia finally reach the 6th floor. Sonia suggests that since Loa is at level 100, they're about to gain a lot of levels. Some of those should be used now. Loa agrees and opens his status window to unlock the 3 magic skills he's been wanting: a flash of lightning, a mithril sword, and body armor. Loa needs 500 attack points to get lightning flash, but he only has 130 right now, so he uses the mithril sword for the moment. Sonia says he looks really cool and can hardly believe he's only level 2. Loa needs to grind some EXP, so he asks Sonia if he should disband the party. Sonia agrees cheerfully because that will let him earn much more experience points. With everything ready, they enter the monster house. As expected, the place is full of terrifying monsters. The pressure is intense. Sonia tells Loa to try to wipe them out in one hit with AoE magic. Otherwise, they'll be in big trouble because of casting time and MP costs. Sonia promises to protect Loa with everything she has, but he tells her to run if it ever comes to that. Shouting, he challenges the monsters to attack him. The 3 stalkers are shocked by how boldly he taunts the monsters. Jake fears what will happen, thinking the monsters are so dangerous that Loa won't even leave bones behind. After 7 seconds, Loa casts Thunderstorm on the charging monsters, and the massive attack wipes them out in one blow. Speechless, Jake tries to figure out who Loa really is. After defeating so many monsters and leveling up, Loa feels a happiness he has never experienced before. That feeling is clear to him. Power surges through him as his level reaches 170. Sonia praises him for leveling up so many times at once. He shows him the materials they collected from all the monsters. Loa is happy too, but since they can't carry everything, they take only the rarest ones. The stalking trio still can't believe Loa defeated an entire monster house with a single attack, and Jake's partner says nobody in Runbalk can use magic like that. He tells Jake that, despite the frustration, they must accept the loss because Loa and Sonia are clearly the best in the city right now, and Jake, irritated, says he will not accept it, chooses to challenge Loa to a duel. His partner warns him that Loa and Sonia are on a completely different level, but Jake insists that since they know this dungeon better than anyone, they could win by using the rules to their advantage. Imagining he's the strongest, he calls himself a genius while his partner sighs and calls him a musclehead. He feels powerless because Jake won't listen. He explains that if they challenge them to a duel, others will set the rules, and causing trouble could hurt their reputation and scores. And Jake finally listens and asks Dory, their female party member, if she is okay with the idea. Dory is completely consumed by her admiration for Loa. Sonia and the others walk off, leaving the rest of the materials behind. This chaotic trio is something else. Sonia makes it to the guild for the item exchange, and other adventurers are already talking about how they cleared an entire monster house. Sonia says quietly that she can feel everyone staring. Loa reassures her, saying they are becoming famous now, and that after defeating a monster house, people will talk about them for a few days. He points out their rewards: 120,000 for the magic stone and materials, and 150,000 for the quest, for a total of 853,000. Sonia is thrilled they're earning money so fast, and Loa says they can finally enjoy a little luxury, though he still feels nervous about spending so much because he's always been poor. It's something he's always wanted to try. They go to a restaurant for steak. Sonia lights up when she sees it and says she hasn't had anything this delicious in a long time. Loa sits in silence, and Sonia gently tells him not to cry just because he sees good food. He smiles and says he's not a fool anymore. The smell of tasty meat won't make him cry now that he's no longer poor. When he picks up the knife and fork, the way he holds them makes Sonia realize something, and she asks whether he knows how to use them. Loa, who is no longer poor, starts crying and says he has always eaten bugs and grass with his hands and never learned to use utensils, so Sonia calms him, tells him to follow her example, and cuts a piece of steak and he lifts it to his mouth. Loa bites it like a baby. He immediately loves it. The steak tastes so good, he returns to his usual self and cries again while enjoying the meal as they continue eating. Jake shows up and mocks them, saying he still cannot believe Loa and Sonia actually beat those monsters. Loa stands and asks him what he wants this time. Jake challenges him to a duel 3 days from now. Loa refuses without hesitation. Dory steps forward and calls Jake an idiot. She tells Loa to listen to her instead. Blushing, she takes his hand and says that not everything needs to be solved through violence. It is clear she has feelings for Loa, but they are not as strong as Sonia's, who stands nearby with a sulky expression after seeing Dory touch him. Dory explains they will hold a timed subjugation battle, with victory going to whoever defeats the dungeon boss first, and adds that the guild has already agreed that if Loa and Sonia win, they will be promoted to C rank. Seeing Dory cling to Loa, Jake asks his teammate why she's not wearing her usual robe, and the teammate points out she never smiled like that in front of him, both clearly jealous. Sonia tells Loa to accept the challenge. Though he dislikes challenges, Loa knows he will eventually have to defeat the dungeon boss. He accepts the duel. Loa and Sonia start preparing for the upcoming challenge. Eric says the dungeon boss is essentially a C-rank monster. Loa learns a new skill called Purple Light to face it. After learning the skill, his level drops by 20, but he regains it soon. Meanwhile, if Sonia's Iron Wall and Distraction skills reach level 10, she unlocks new abilities, so the two of them keep grinding while learning the right pacing. On the day of the duel, both finally reached level 200. Now they feel confident they will not lose easily. Finally, both teams stand face to face, ready for the challenge. The duel has turned into a full show, drawing a huge crowd as the guild's counter-attendant hosts and announces the start, rousing the audience to loud cheers for both sides. Loa asks Jake how it became such a public event, and Jake says people showed up after they heard the story. The woman at the counter tells everyone that the challenge is to defeat the dungeon boss and return with the teleportation stone while being recorded. Their time will be tracked by a magical item called the magical timer. Victory requires bringing back the boss's magic stone, and with the appraiser present, cheating is impossible. The duel begins when the counter lady asks which party will enter the dungeon first. Jake's group decides to go in first. Jake turns to Loa and says loudly, "They'll be back in a few seconds, so don't run off," adding that he has no reason to run away. Dory approaches Loa, trying to look cute but really showing off her figure, and tells him that even if he hates Jake, he shouldn't hate her. Irritated, Jake tells her to hurry so they can leave. An hour and a half later, Sonia sits beside Loa, sulking and pouting. Turning to him, she asks whether men prefer women with larger breasts, clearly referring to Dory. Loa replies that it depends on the person. He prefers someone like Sonia, someone he can fight beside, and her face lights up instantly. While they're talking, they hear Jake's party has come back. They completed it in 1 hour and 32 minutes, much faster than the usual 2 hours. The crowd cheers for Jake as he glances back at Loa and Sonia with a smug smile, saying that beating their time will not be, that sounds easy. And Loa and Sonia remember that they reached the lower floor in just an hour yesterday. If they don't make mistakes, they still have a strong chance of winning. Inside the dungeon, they fight their way through monsters at a steady, measured pace. Loa says they're doing their best to avoid unnecessary fights, and he feels more in sync with Sonia now. Sonia agrees and says they reached the floor faster this time, so they have a real chance to win. Loa warns her not to relax yet because they haven't defeated the dungeon boss, and Sonia smiles brightly and says she'll prove she's reliable. The Lizard King monster watches their cheerful conversation and quietly begins to cry, still heartbroken from being dumped the night before. They finally reach the lowest floor. At the barrier, Loa asks Sonia if she is ready, and Sonia replies confidently that they will not lose. They step through the barrier and face the dungeon boss, Kelpie, a monster recommended for level 400. Sonia immediately distracts it to stop it from attacking during the low period. Loa starts casting Purple Lightning, a short-range spell that takes 2 seconds to cast and is enough for the situation. Loa unleashes the spell, hits the kelp and defeats it instantly. A notification instantly tells him his level increased from 200 to 270, and he earned the title Conqueror of Runbalk. In the dungeon, Sonia is excited that they defeated a rank C Kelpie with a single hit. Loa explains that Purple Lightning deals 12,000 damage, and because it has an elemental advantage against Kelpie, it deals 24,000. No monster could survive. Rushing to grab the magic stone, he decides they should teleport out of the dungeon, and at that moment, Sonia senses something is wrong. Looking around, she realizes that even though the boss has been defeated, the barrier remains. Loa doesn't believe it at first because they clearly beat the dungeon boss, but Sonia suddenly turns his gaze upward and tells him to look at the ceiling. Loa looks up and sees a new monster appear, the soul of Pirate William with a recommended level of 1,000. This is the dungeon's extra boss, and the surprise hits both of them hard. The extra boss instantly charges at Loa with a powerful strike. Sonia tries to use her distraction skill to protect him, but is shocked to find it has no effect on the monster, and the boss keeps targeting Loa. It swings its sword at him, but Loa dodges the attack. Back outside the dungeon, the woman at the counter announces that 45 minutes have passed, and Loa and Sonia still have not returned. From behind, Jake says they must have been defeated by now. Dory replies sharply that they would not be beaten that easily. The two begin arguing. To distract them, the woman behind the counter offers a scary story while they wait, dropping her voice to make the room feel eerie as she explains that besides the dungeon boss, there is an extra boss that appears only if a specific condition is met. That condition is very hard to trigger, and the extra boss is incredibly powerful, and those who have seen it prepared only to die. No one has ever reported this extra boss appearing in this dungeon. Jake, clearly frightened, suddenly shouts at her to stop scaring him. Elsewhere, the other two remain unmoved. In the dungeon, the extra boss swings its sword at Loa, who barely manages to block. Even with the block, Lois is in pain because he is only B rank, and worse, their teleportation magic is down, so they must defeat the boss to activate the teleportation stone, which at level 270 against a boss meant for level 1000 is almost impossible. From behind, Sonia shouts to Loa to create distance and strike it with the Thunder Havillon. Loa follows her secretly and casts the Thunder Havillon spell. The monster easily dodges the attack. It shocked them both. Without warning, the monster ducks low and delivers a kick to Loa's stomach, sending him crashing into the wall. Seeing Loa get hit, Sonia steps between him and the monster to shield him, drawing the monster's attention to herself. She tells Loa to rest while she buys him time. Loa is badly injured and only 120 horsepower remained after a single kick. He had expected a tough fight against an enemy resistant to magic, and this could be the real test. If he can't overcome this, relying on magic alone won't get him to the top. He remembers Eric saying many people give up around rank D, but Loa has climbed all the way from the bottom. No stranger to struggle, he refuses to give up now and analyzes why his attack missed. One reason being the distance. and another that he cast directly in front of the monster. Moving into the blind spot won't help, because the monster can still counter, and no matter how fast he tries to cast a follow-up spell, he'll be killed before the spell finishes. It means chant time is no longer the issue, and he must endure the monster's attacks and fight it at close range with a sword. Loa gets to his feet and draws his weapon. He feels relieved knowing he has a spell suited for this kind of combat. Body strengthening. First, he opens his item box, pulls out potions, and restores his MP. After spending 200 levels to learn the new skill, he is ready to put it to use. Activating body, strengthening triples his strength to its maximum. It greatly increases his attack and defense. The spell costs 10 MP per second, and at the current multiplier it costs 30 MP per second, giving him 34 seconds of boosted strength. He breathes deeply to calm his nerves, tells himself it will be fine because he is not alone, and Sonia is there to help him recover his MP. Calling for cover, he shifts into close combat, catching Sonia off guard as she questions the sudden change, but Loa is already committed. Stepping forward, he faces the monster, starting a close-range battle between a level 270 and a level 1000. Loa and the monster begin their fight. They both swing their swords at each other, but neither lands a solid hit. Lois's strikes aren't connecting well, but at least he's not getting hit, which is a relief. Attacking again, he finally makes a shallow cut after some effort. Though small, it gives him a bit of hope. Even in danger, Loa realizes he is thrilled by the fight. The monster strikes back, but this time Loa blocks the blow. Noticing his MP running low, he would prefer to recover it before things get worse. A monster appears behind him without warning and launches a surprise attack, catching Loa off guard. Before the strike lands, Sonia rushes in and uses her skill disco to block the attack. Fiction. Surprisingly, the skill actually works. Sonia tells Loa to recover fast, warning that she may not be able to keep the monster's attention for long. Loa thanks her and praises her perfect timing. Drinking a potion to restore his MP, he sees Sonia getting worn out. They need to end this soon. Loa spots patterns in the monster's movements. Once he recovers, he charges the monster again. Sensing this, the monster moves forward to attack as well. Loa predicts the monster will attempt a precise, high-accuracy strike. When the monster swings, Loa ducks at the last moment, spots an opening, and drives his sword upward. As the monster reaches for Loa's weapon, Sonia moves in behind it and wraps her arms around it to keep it from moving. She calls Loa to start his chant. At that moment, the monster breaks free from Sonia's grip. It turns the sword on her. Sonia takes the hit and is injured, forcing her to let go. The monster instantly shifts back toward Loa to counterattack. It's too late now. The 2 seconds needed for the spell have passed. Loa unleashes purple lightning. Strike the monster cleanly through its center. Landing the finishing blow, Loa looks down at the defeated boss and confidently asks how it feels to be taken down by a D-rank adventurer. After finally defeating the monster, Sonia sits beside Loa, crying and saying she's just glad he's okay. They can hardly believe they beat a deranged boss. Loa says the magic creation skill is completely broken, and Sonia's bold move saved him too, since he defeated the deranged enemy at only level 70. Continues to receive notifications about leveling up. Sonia smiles and says that since he was only level 70, he's probably getting an insane amount of EXP. Loa says he's eager to see how high his level will go. Sonia praises not only his magic, but also his swordsmanship and asks where he learned it. Loa says he learned the basics as a low-level adventurer. Sonia is amazed he reached that level from the basics alone and says if he put his mind to it, he could become an exceptional swordsman. Loa shakes his head and says doing 2 things at once would split his focus. Magic interests him more than swinging a sword, and he still believes he can reach the top using only magic. After the intense fight, Loa is clearly exhausted. They sit holding hands in a small, sweet moment. Sonia gently tells him to lie down since they still have a little time left, but he says the floor is too hard. Sonia suddenly blushes, lays his head in her lap, and says he can lie down for just 5 minutes. After a few minutes, the shy girl is clearly blushing. Loa says she seems a little stiff, and Sonia bashfully tells him not to worry. By now, Loa has reached level 470 and earned the title Captain for defeating the pirate William Gid, the dungeon's extra boss. Outside the dungeon, the counter clerk announces that the magic timer has stopped and they have returned. Their completion time is 1 hour and 29 minutes, 3 minutes faster than Jake's team. Jake refuses to believe it, insisting they know this dungeon better than anyone, and asks Loa whether he really beat the boss and demands proof. Clearly tired of Jake's drama, Loa quietly lifts the magic stones. Jake's face shifts when he realizes there are two. The appraiser steps forward and takes the stones to inspect them. One immediately stands out as not being the usual C-rank type. Jake laughs, sure this proves they're fake, but his confidence disappears when the appraiser says both are real. One of them is a B-rank magic stone. Jake freezes. He says this dungeon has no B-rank monsters. Furious, he asks Loa what he wants. Loa says casually that he beat the extra boss and everyone is dead. Loa is shocked. The counter lady grabs him by the collar and says he must be joking, insisting the extra boss appears only under strict conditions and that most people think it does not exist. Sonia asks her to explain those conditions. She lists them, noting that a party of 2 or fewer reached the bottom floor in under an hour and defeated the dungeon boss in 30 seconds. No one has ever done this, she says, and even she has only heard rumors about landing no more than 3 hits on the boss. Sonia replies proudly that Loa did it all. Loa reminds her not to make it seem like he did it alone. Dory and her party member are equally stunned, and Dory walks up to hug Loa, clearly impressed, but Sonia jumps in and keeps her from getting close to him, not letting another girl take her guy, while Jake's teammate, seeing Jake look down, tries to comfort him, and says that although it's frustrating, they have to accept they lost. Overwhelmed, he suddenly starts crying, and his tears must have terrified Loa and Sonia. Jake walks up to Loa, holds out his hand, and says he acknowledges his strength. He apologizes for how he acted before. Loa remembers Carter and compares them, and Jake feels different, shakes his hand and says he enjoyed the competition in the end. People suddenly crowd around, offering compliments and invitations. Jake clears a path for him and tells everyone they're drinking together tonight. Dory walks up to Loa, leans in a little flirtatiously and asks if they should go out. Loa glances around awkwardly and says he'd rather go home and sleep. Sonia steps in again and keeps Dory at a distance. Surrounded by cheers and praise, Loa feels pretty good about it. That night, Loa is asleep in his room when Sonia knocks on his door and quietly asks if he's awake. Finding no response, she enters and walks to where he's sleeping. In her nightwear, she looks beautiful as she lays a blanket on the couch and quietly says Loa must have forgotten to lock the door again because he drank too much. She pats his head gently, thinking he must have been exhausted today. Sitting on the floor beside him, she speaks softly, telling him how worried she was and how she feared he might die earlier and thanking the heavens that he is okay. Then bringing her face close, she confesses something she has been holding in and says her feelings might be a burden to him, which is why she's saying them while, at last, she confesses her love and says she's grateful to have met him. Like Armakasa, that love remains a secret even now. At the guild the next day, Loa and Sonia are told they've been promoted to C rank and receive their new guild cards, now made of gold. Tears of joy fill Loa's eyes, and she turns to Sonia and says he finally did it. Laughing, Sonia points out that his bedhead has ruined the glamorous look they'd planned for the promotion. At the dining table, Loa asks why Sonia didn't wake him since he slept until noon, and Sonia flushes, starts to mention his sleeping face but stops and says she was just tired. To change the subject and hide her embarrassment, she asks what their plans are for the day now that they've cleared the Runbalk dungeon. Loa thinks for a moment and points out they've already earned their titles and accomplished everything this city had to offer. Deciding it's time to go to the next dungeon, he brings up buying an earth dragon. Loa explains excitedly that when adventurers used to visit Foil Village, he often saw them riding earth dragons. They are faster than horses and can carry heavy loads. With another million saved, he figures they can afford one, and Sonia hesitates before gently letting him know. Earth dragons cost about 10 million more. Loa's excitement drains from his face and he quickly changes his tone. Telling them not to waste money on convenience, he fixes his hair and pretends he was never that interested to begin with when Eric calls from behind to say not to give up yet because he has an offer. Loa and Sonia listen closely as Eric speaks. Loa heard they defeated the extra boss and were told to stop by his shop, and she was surprised he had a store. Eric explains he left adventuring behind to run an armory and stopped by the guild for paperwork, where he happened to run into them. To repay them for saving him, he invites them over. When Loa and Sonia arrive at Eric's, Loa jokes it looks more like a cowshed than a store, and Eric agrees that it used to be a cowshed he converted into a shop himself. He says he sells supplies to adventurers and travelers, and has even been raising horses and earth dragons. Eric shows them an earth dragon and tells them they can take it for free. Both are stunned and overjoyed, and Eric tells them they saved his life and have no reason to hesitate. He raised the dragon with care and trusts others will treat her well. Having given up his childhood dream of adventuring, this earth dragon will take his place on adventures. The dragon comes up to Loa. Loa coos happily at her and says how friendly she is. He remarks that she must really love grass. The dragon responds with cheerful energy. Sonia and Eric watch their quick bond and smile. Eric tells Loa he can name her anything he likes. Loa pauses for a moment, remembering she made a yow sound. Brimming with enthusiasm, he announces her name as Yao Yu Rose Kingdom Inferno Stroganoff Victory Justice. Sonia and Eric immediately shout that the name is far too long and hard to say. Sona plays along and suggests caramel strawberry extra whip choco sausage chan, and when it goes nowhere, Eric settles on Yao as the proper name. Loa hugs the dragon and adds Kingdom to her name, deciding to call her Yao Kingdom, and Eric chuckles and says he'll deliver any equipment Loa needs later, reminding Loa that an adventurer can never be too prepared. Everyone gathers to see Loa and Sonia off. Dory cries and asks Loa why he is leaving so soon. Someone even offered to switch places with Jake. Sonia calmly replies that she doesn't like Jake, saying it seriously while still managing to look adorable. Seeing the large crowd, Loa asks Jake why so many people showed up. Jake says it's because Loa has become quite popular in the city. Jake and his team are also famous. In his youth, Jake tells Loa confidently that next time they meet, they'll win, and asks him to stay safe and avoid injuries until then. Eric reminds them to take good care of Yao, and Loa thanks him sincerely for everything. Loa climbs onto Yao, helps Sonia get on too. As the dragon starts walking, Loa feels joy at how smooth and exciting the ride is. The crowd waves and cheers as the two finally leave Runbalk. After traveling some distance, Sonia notices how quiet it has become. Loa says the people of Runbalk were very kind, and bets they will meet more people like them ahead. Looking up at the sky, he told Sonia in a low voice that he's glad they met back in Foyle Village. Her cheeks go pink and she looks away. She suddenly wonders if Loa heard her confession from the night before. And flustered, she asks if he remembers anything she said, but Loa looks clueless and asks what she means, so Sonia panics, says it's nothing. And then a monster appears to ruin the moment as a cobalt knight steps in to disturb their peace and give them an excuse to fight again. Preparing to fight, Loa checks the map and sees the next town is nearby. Next, they travel to the volcano town of Almont. A gang of thieves suddenly raids a small hut deep in a dense forest and forces the terrified old man, clearly the owner, to leave so they can take the hut for themselves. The man pleads that he'll have nowhere to go if they take his home, but the thieves ignore his desperate cries and keep shouting, and then Loa and Sonia arrive, looking completely out of place in the tense scene. They look like they're on a pleasant picnic, carrying food in their hands. Loa calmly asks the thieves what they are doing. Smiling, Sonia holds up a pot and says she made curry for their dinner, and Loa adds, they found tons of crabs in the lake and plan to eat them for breakfast tomorrow. Annoyed by the duo's casual attitude, the thieves step forward and demand all their belongings. They clearly overestimate themselves and think they can rob the cheerful duo. Loa, not in the mood for nonsense, activates his magic and says casually that instead of stealing from others, they should show their strength and grow from it. As soon as his magic activates, the thieves' bravado vanishes. Loa summons a thunderstorm that knocks them all out at once. This explains why Loa and Sonia are here. On their way to Almont, they rescued an old man named Erinko. He was a former adventurer who repaid them by sharing valuable information. He said Almont depends on mining and has a dungeon full of fire-type monsters, most ranked C or higher. Once an old mine, the dungeon still contains traps meant to stop robbers, and on its lowest floor resides a massive B-ranked flaming wolf called the Volcano Hound. Realizing this, Loa tells Sonia they will need water-type spells to handle the monsters and other spells to deal with traps. After their battle with the monster pirate William Gede, Sonia tells him she gained new skills, and when Loa asks to see her status window, she shows it, revealing abnormal status endurance level 10, giant shield level 1, part to guard level 1, and poisonous shield level 1. Loa is impressed and notes that her skill levels have reached the maximum, and he adds that if they keep strengthening her poisonous shield skill, it could become a real threat to the enemy. Checking his status window, he finds a new spell called Water Blade that costs 150 levels to unlock and decides to acquire it. That raised his level to 320. As they continue their journey, Sonia thanks Loa, saying they were able to prepare thoroughly because of Arinko's detailed information. Loa agrees, but also wonders aloud why Arinko lives alone in a forest. Sonia realizes he hadn't been paying attention to Arinko's. She says Arinko once fell in love with a fairy he saw only once, and though he does not know if they will meet again, he keeps waiting for her while romantic Sonia is moved by the story. A touching story. Loa, who clearly doesn't understand romance, casually says dungeon raiding is much more fun, and Sonia, expecting that answer, just sighs. Their conversation ends as they finally arrive in Almont, a busy city packed with people. After they parked their earth dragon Yao in the stable, Loa and Sonia set out to explore. Loa notices the city's distinct scent. Sonia says it's from the hot springs the city is known for. That explains why the ends were so expensive. Loa realizes it and sulks, annoyed they could only afford one room. Sonia is delighted and says saving money is always a good idea. But Loa brushes that aside and reminds her to keep her posture straight as they prepare to enter the dungeon. They have accepted a guild request to retrieve heat-bore leather for a 30,000 mers reward. Loa feels both excited and anxious about how a C-ranked engine will look. Before long, they're inside the dungeon. A heat borer charges Sonia, and she deftly lures it toward Loa. Loa casts his newly learned water blade spell, easily defeats the monster. Sonia praises him while Loa stares at the fallen beast. She asks what's wrong, and he says his level didn't go up. He is surprised and thinks the monster's subjugation level matched his, so he gained no experience. Sonia laughs and points out that Loa used to level up after every fight. Loa says it feels strange, but that's probably because until now they've mostly fought monsters stronger than them. Sonia grows serious and warns him that monsters get stronger the deeper they go into the dungeon, and that there will be more traps. While she walks ahead explaining the dangers, she steps on something and triggers a trap. Smoke spreads around them and she falls to the ground. Loa quickly asks if she is all right. Once the smoke clears a little, Sonia says she's fine. It's just, as the smoke clears, Loa sees Sonia lying on the floor with her clothes completely gone except for her undergarments. He freezes, stunned and silent, while Sonia remains completely unfazed, and the whole scene makes no sense to him, leaving him speechless. With Sonia sitting there in just her underwear, Loa freezes, not sure where to look or what to say. Awkwardly, he tells her she's a good girl and should stay calm and listen closely, then adds that the smoke is still swirling and he can't see anything. He motions for her to hurry and gather the items that just flew off. Sonia is still unaware of her condition. She glances down, suddenly realizes the situation and panics, shouting in embarrassment. Sonia asks where her equipment went, and Loa, seeing how flustered she is, becomes flustered too. Neither of them knowing how it happened, but the smoke was clearly a trap that stripped their gear, and Sonia, still blushing, mumbles that she should have at least worn cuter underwear. Loa almost hears it, but his brain blanks at the last second. Sonia jumps up, gathers her scattered clothes, and quickly tells Loa not to look while she dresses. Just then, as if things weren't bad enough, a monster appears, an awkward-looking turtle with a leering expression who waddles close and stares far too intently at Sonia. Midway through dressing, she freezes at the turtle's shameless stare. Loa reacts quickly and attacks from behind using a body-strengthening technique and a water blade. A strike easily defeats the turtle. Turning away, he tells Sonia to finish. As he checks the battle results, Sonia gratefully gets dressed while Loa keeps his eyes respectfully averted. After Sonia finishes dressing and they take care of the monster, they leave the dungeon and on the way out, talk about finally completing today's request. Still, a definite awkwardness from earlier hangs in the air, trying to be shaken off. Making small talk about how dangerous the traps are, both try to reset the mood, and Loa apologizes, admitting he thought careful observation would let him avoid the traps. and revealing he recently acquired a skill called the Ring of Detection that cost him 150 levels. Admitting he should have done it earlier, he decides to make one for both of them, and Sonia looks a little worried about the level cost, but Loa assures her he can regain it quickly. Preventing more equipment mishaps is worth it to him. He makes the rings. Sonia smiles and says it's beautiful when she receives hers, offering him sincere thanks. Later that day at the inn, Sonia steps into the open-air bite. Relaxing in the bath, she stretches and sighs while soaking in the warm water after their long journey. She thinks the inn's high price must be because of this bath, and though she had told Loa she'd use it in the morning, she couldn't wait. Giggling to herself about the day's events, she spots a figure in the mist. Her eyes widen as she realizes the water is lower in the women's bath. Sonia screams and demands to know why he's there, while Loa, calm as ever, explains that many public baths here are mixed, and that, as a former noble, she probably didn't know that. And at her wit's end, Sonia slaps a hand to her face, tired of being seen in awkward situations repeatedly. Meanwhile, in a quiet part of the forest, a girl adventurer speaks with Arinko and is surprised to hear someone drove off the thugs. Arinko says he owes his life to a young mage and a girl with a massive shield, and that they are much stronger than they appear. She'd come only to arrest the thugs, but now she's intrigued by the pair. If they're really as strong as they claim, she'll test and fight them herself. If they pass, she'll scout them for knighthood. The next morning, Loa and Sonia sit in Almont's guild hall, and Loa says they should take a moment to regroup after everything that happened yesterday before heading back into the dungeon. Sonia, however, sits with her eyes closed, quietly thinking about her embarrassment. She replies calmly that everything that happened yesterday was due to her own clumsiness. Then she opens her eyes and immediately shouts. She recoils in horror at the strange, utterly unappetizing dish sitting right in front of her, its appearance deeply disturbing. Sonia shudders at the sight, while Loa, unfazed, explains excitedly that it is a special dish called volcanic yamworm sauté, and even praises the Almond Guild's menu as far better than the food they had in Foil and Runbalk. Since warm dishes rarely appear on menus, he ordered one out of curiosity. Loa casually asks Sonia whether she dislikes bugs. Trying to keep her composure, Sonia admits that even looking at them makes her nauseous. Meanwhile, Loa savors the worm dish like a food critic, casually twirling one on his fork while describing it in surprising detail, saying the juicy worm bursts in your mouth with a soft crunch, a creamy texture, and a rich flavor. He says the aftertaste is excellent because of a blend of sweet, warm notes and a tangy sauce. That makes him seem like the Bear Grylls of adventure. Stunned, Sonia can hardly believe what she sees and begins to think her rivals are insects rather than women. Determined to bond with Loa, she forces herself to taste one. It is a bold move. It turned out to be a terrible mistake. Later that day in the dungeon, Sonia looks utterly sick, leaning against a wall, pale and weak as Loa gently rubs her back and apologizes for encouraging her to try the worm dish. And Sonia groans that it was way too early for her to try that, because the moment she bit into it, the texture and flavor overwhelmed her in the worst possible way, and just remembering it makes her gag again. Slightly panicked, Loa quickly uses item creation to materialize a bucket to vomit into. Red-faced and mortified, Sonia shouts at him not to look and tells him to go far away. Loa immediately backs off, thinking forming a party might not have been such a good idea, while poor Sonia is left heaving behind a rock, and Loa unknowingly earns himself the new title of Man of Zero Delicacy. Finally, they reached the 4th floor of the Almont dungeon. Defeat a monster. Loa notices Sonia is full of energy again and asks if she is okay. She assures him she is fine. Loa notices his level is recovering and sees he is currently at level 310, and with his levels back up, he decides to learn a new spell. He opens his status window. Sonia, standing nearby, suggests that since the dungeon might have a monster house or an extra boss, he should get a wide-range water-type spell. Following her advice, Loa finds a suitable spell called Surface Water Bubbles that costs 300 levels. Using 900 MP makes Loa hesitate a bit, but its chant is shorter than his thunderstorm, and one more level would easily cover the MP cost, so Loa decides to try it. A scream echoes behind them, and they turn to see a familiar girl running toward them, frantically calling for help. Masha is being chased by a group of monsters. Loa, unsure why Masha is even here, sizes her up and gets ready. Without hesitation, he activates a spell that strengthens his body. He lifts Sonia into his arms, then jumps to a higher area. Suddenly scooped up, Sonia flushes with embarrassment. And from above, Loa sees how fast Masha runs and notes her impressive speed, while Sonia, still half embarrassed, mutters that Masha probably has some kind of agility skill, with Masha safely out of the attack zone. At last, Loa activates the surface water bubbles. The new spell instantly defeats every monster with a single blast. Masha watches from below and is shocked. She recognizes that kind of magic. It must be Loa. As she runs toward him, she trips and falls face first onto the ground. Loa rushes. Someone comes over to check on her. Masha, lying on the ground, looks up with a grin and says she knew it was Loa is buried in a flurry of glowing notifications and doesn't respond right away. Masha grows confused, thinking he's ignoring her. Loa finally peeks out from behind the alerts, apologizes, and asks her to wait until things calm down. Chapter 142. Tears fill Masha's eyes as she sees Loa and Sonia again after so long. Overwhelmed with joy, she hugs Loa tightly, crying and thanking him that he saved her twice. She is as adorable as the Masha from the old cartoon Masha and the Bear. But Sonia gently pulls her back and says she cannot go around hugging someone just because they saved her. Instead, Sonia gently offers Masha a napkin to wipe her tears. Masha thanks Sonia gratefully, touched by her warmth. It feels almost like a flashback to their first meeting. Loa, now curious, asks Masha what she is doing in the dungeon since she is not an adventurer, and Masha, a little hesitant, explains she has been struggling with her sales lately, so she started working as a courier. Loa blinks in confusion, so Masha explains that transporters are people who carry items adventurers collect on quests. For someone like Loa, who can cast item creation spells, that kind of work makes little sense. Masha says she has a unique skill called excellent luck, and had been trying to use it today by helping a party, but she got separated from them in the middle of the dungeon. As they discuss this, the party Masha had been working with finally arrives. One of the men shouts at her, asking where she wandered off to and saying that if she keeps disappearing like that, they won't be able to carry out their work properly. Bowing quickly, Masha apologizes sincerely, but the man refuses her apology and says that since they found nothing valuable today, they will not pay her at all, leaving her looking a little downcast. Still, she nods and accepts their judgment quietly, admitting she'd lost track of them and that it was her own fault, while the man, acting as if he's doing her a huge favor, says they won't fire her just yet, but that any future pay will depend entirely on her performance. Loa watches everything quietly and senses something is wrong. If Masha had really been left behind, she would have caught up easily because she is so fast, and someone like her would not ignore instructions to stay with the group. Then an idea clicks in Loa's mind, and he asks Sonia to cover Masha's meal for the day. Sonia agrees, slightly confused, and asks why. Smirking, Loa says something incredibly dumb just came up and tells Sonia to go ahead and order some yam worm sauté for herself, earning him an immediate shriek of protest. At the same time, the people who hired Masha are mocking her after deliberately abandoning her when they had the chance. One of them snickers that Masha must feel indebted to them now, and it's clear their intentions toward her are not good. Suddenly, Loa steps in front of them. The group recognizes him from before. He coldly tells them he used a recording spell to capture everything they just said and warns them of the consequences if they do not comply. They don't want him to share it with the guild or the public. They must pay Masha what she is owed. The men don't take him seriously. They laugh, mock him, and call him a wannabe hero. One attacker seizes Loa's neck from behind as another draws a sword and charges him. Others mock his level, saying he's only level 31 and no match for them, but Loa calmly activates his body strengthening. Easily breaking the hold, he jumps, plants his foot squarely on the face of the man behind him, and dashes away. A quickly hides behind a wall while two men chase him. The moment they turn the corner, Loa hits one from the side, knocking him out. Startled, the other man stumbles back as Loa steps forward and explains he never intended to fight all three at once, which is why he took them out one at a time, and the remaining man, irritated, smirks and claims Loa is finished, pointing out they are in a narrow corridor where magic won't work well, but Loa turns his words back on him, calmly saying that it's just as hard to swing a sword in such a confined space. As the man charges with his sword, Loa activates his personal close combat move, Furnos Stroganoff, and knocks him flying with a powerful punch. Loa stands over him and demands an apology. Bruce, barely able to move, weakly agrees, and as Loa turns to leave, he pauses. Before him stands a girl, quietly admiring what he just did, the same mysterious girl we saw earlier with Arinko in the forest. Before Loa can speak, she steps forward, pins him to the wall, and with a steady voice and a confident smile, introduces herself as Merrill, a knight from Norum, the royal capital of the Kingdom of Drum. After watching him, she now eagerly offers Loa a spot in her elite squad. Lost, Loa has no idea what's happening. He rambles about not buying expensive paintings and vows to beat up any bad guys she might bring out later. Merrill tilts her head, clearly confused by his behavior, then realizes she may have frightened him and tries to ease the tension. Excitedly, she tells him not to worry and asks him to join her squadron so he can grow stronger, and Loa stares blankly before replying that his late grandmother always said suspicious invitations never die down. They only grow stronger. Merrill blinks, a little taken aback by the remark, apologizes for being abrupt, and finally explains she met an old man named Arinko in the forest, who told her about Loa and Sonia, and when she saw Loa, his appearance matched Arinko's description, helping Loa understand the connection. Brightening again, she asks him once more to become a knight, but before her excitement takes hold, Loa casually rejects the offer without giving it much thought. He says that even if she lacks knights, he has his own dream of reaching the top by magic, and has no interest in knighthood. Merrill freezes in disbelief and points at his sword, asking why a mage like him would carry one. Loa simply replies that he needs it to cast certain spells. Many are very disappointed in Merrill, saying his size wastes his talent, and that he could be a top-class knight if he joined them. As Loa starts to walk away, Merrill suddenly grabs him from behind and suggests they settle it with a spar. She suggests a condition. If Loa wins, she'll do whatever he sees. Later at the inn, Masha tells Loa that the people who hired her dropped by unexpectedly and apologized. She shows him the small reward she was given and says their expressions were odd. Loa smiles and tells her she did well. Sonia walks over and gently thanks Loa. She can tell he did something behind the scenes. Loa sighs and admits he can hide nothing from her. Sonia smiles sweetly. He suddenly grows serious and asks about the girl behind him. Loa turns and explains that Merrill suddenly appeared and invited them to become knights. Merrill steps forward and politely introduces herself to Sonia. Sonia is utterly shocked that a girl would try to borrow Loa and take her away. Loa quickly explains what's happening, and Sonia's tense shoulders finally relax. He says Merrill kept pushing, so they agreed to settle it with a spar, and Merrill stepped forward to state the terms that if she wins, Loa will become a knight, and if he wins, she will do anything he says. Sonia's eyes narrow as she turns toward Loa and asks what he plans to make Merrill do. Loa pauses for a second and says he might ask for money if they go broke, or he might try to get intel only knights can access. Reassured, Sonia finally smiles again. Her mood swings are really something to watch. Standing proudly, she tells Merrill they will spar with her because Loa will never lose, and Merrill answers just as confidently that she has no intention of losing either. Tension builds as the two women stare each other down, and Loa, confused, leans to Masha and says, Sonia is getting fired up even though he is the one who has to fight, while Masha replies seriously that this has become a battle between women. Soon everyone has gathered at the Almont Guild training grounds, and Loa and Merrill stand facing each other in the center. Masha and Sonia watch from outside the field. Sonia is surprised the guild has its own training ground. Masha explains that, with so many professionals, such places are becoming standard. They both glance at the injured clients who had once hired Masha and now stand at the edge, cheering for Loa like excited fans. Merrill stands on the field, holds up a coin, and tells Loa the match starts the moment the coin hits the ground. She lays out the rules, saying anything is allowed as long as it is not bladed. Loa needs just one hit to win, and Merrill needs 3 hits on him to win. Loa furrows his brow at the 3-hit handicap and refuses any favors. Merrill chuckles and tosses the coin, saying she is merely showing mercy to civilians as a proper knight should. Then she rushes forward and swings her sword with lightning speed. and Loa is impressed by her speed. He's fast. He watches her stance to find a counter, but she surprises him by feinting. She lands a clean hit before he can react. Merrill cheerfully calls it 1 point and says adventurers move unpredictably, so she cannot let her guard down. Her eyes hard, she warns Loa that if he does not go all out, he will surely lose. Feeling the pressure, Loa tightens his grip on the sword and prepares to fight back. Merrill lands the first hit on Loa, surprising Masha and Sonia watching from the sidelines, and Masha nervously tells Sonia the fight is tougher than they expected since Merrill had said she was a true knight. The title is the knight's second highest rank. Sonia nods, quietly acknowledging Merrill's strength. It makes sense, since Merrill could spot Loa's hidden power at a glance. Masha then voices her concern. People whisper that Loa has never pointed a sword at anyone before, which could make this even harder for him. On the field, Loa activates a body-strengthening skill and charges forward, swinging his sword with precision, and Merrill deflects it effortlessly, eyes bright with excitement, knowing Loa has begun to take the battle seriously. Amazed, she watches how quickly he adapts to her movements, as if he learns during the fight. He's growing at a remarkable rate. Their swords clash across the training grounds, and neither lands a blow this time. Merrill beams and says the fight is getting fun. Loa, completely unamused, snaps back that she is making a face no proper knight should ever make. Merrill laughs, then quickly becomes composed and focused, while Loa, a little overwhelmed, quietly admits that knights are terrifying and he does not want to become one, so he pulls a mono recovery potion from his item box, and as he drinks, Merrill asks whether that is made by magic as well. Merrill's playful tone fades as she gives him a sharp look and warns she will not give him another chance. Taking a moment to recover, she grips her sword tightly and charges forward. Loa tries to fight back, casting a lightning flash. Just as he thinks he has the upper hand, Merrill appears behind him in a blur and lands her second hit. Loa cries out that this hit hurts much more than the first, and Merrill apologizes casually, saying she can't hold back once she starts enjoying a fight. Then, with a teasing smile, she mocks him, saying a man shouldn't cry over something like this. She follows up with another strike. Loa barely blocks it and is clearly struggling. Magic can't make up for the huge gap in their physical skill. She keeps closing the gap so quickly that magic is almost useless. Confidently, Merrill says she's about to land her final hit and offers to handle all the paperwork and formalities for his knight registration once she wins. She lunges forward, swinging her sword. This moment is intense. Loa's heart pounds. At this rate, he will lose. Even if he tries to dodge, his body will not move fast enough. That cannot happen. Loa clenches his jaw. Countless adventures still await him. He is not here to become a knight. His goal is to reach the top through magic. That is his only path. He has nothing but his magic, and that is more than enough. His focus narrows so sharply that a notification appears before him, announcing the activation of the magic creation effect. In that instant, something shifts inside him and his aura becomes calm, sharp, and composed. Just as Merrill's sword is about to deliver the final blow, Loa, without hesitation, vanishes from his spot and appears behind her, his sword already mid-swing. A smooth strike knocks the sword out of Merrill's hand. Stunned, she gasps as Loa lands his first hit. After a brief silence, the injured party from earlier erupts into cheers, their voices filling the battlefield and praising Loa for striking on a second-class knight. Merrill, still in disbelief, looks at Loa and asks what he did, how he avoided her attack and reacted so quickly, and even Loa doesn't fully understand it himself. Staring at his hand, he is stunned and quietly wonders where this sudden power came from, after somehow landing a clean hit on someone far above him. Loa studies his sword, puzzled. It looks like a normal wooden blade, but something feels wrong. A moment earlier, it glowed when he struck Merrill, and he had not used any magic. Still unsure, he shrugs and looks. Merrill smirks and happily says he's won. Then, seeing no other option, suddenly breaks down in tears. Loa is startled by her unexpected reaction. Through her crying, she tells him the Night Order is severely understaffed. They are working so hard their skin is drying out and all the new recruits quit almost instantly. Loa, unsure how to respond, awkwardly tries to comfort her. Merrill she insists she will do anything Loa asks and makes it a promise, while Loa, sweating from the intensity of her words, says he does not need anything right now and will save that promise for later. Still too, Merrill keeps pleading with him for any command, even offering to give up her paid vacation days. Overwhelmed, Loa politely asks her to rest, and at that moment, Sonia rushes over and jumps into his arm. She excitedly asks how he pulled off those incredible moves, praises him while standing way too close, and leaves Loa flustered. He thanks her, but no. Finally, she says she's standing a little too close. Sonia realizes it, blushes, hides her face, and steps back as Masha approaches and says Loa moved as if time had stopped, and that his sword looked enchanted. Her eyes shining, she asks him what he did. Loa, still uncertain, says he does not know. He cannot reproduce it right now. If he ever figures it out again, dungeon runs would become much more exciting, and Merrill listens quietly as they talk. Eventually, she calls out to Loa and says she now understands why he does not want to join the Knights, because he already has great teammates and genuinely enjoys himself. Apologizing for pushing them to become Knights, she admits defeat this time. Merrill says she is a member of the Drum Knight Order based in the royal capital Norum. When not at the dorm, she usually patrols or deals with thieves and criminals. Merrill tells Loa he can come find her if he ever needs her. Loa nods and thanks her for everything. They shake hands, and with that Merrill's short journey with Loa comes to an end. Life in the Almont dungeon returns to normal. Loa and Sonia keep up their dungeon runs. Masha is now traveling with them. On the first floor, Loa asks why she came. Masha, in an overly dramatic samurai-style voice, declares that Sonia has officially hired her as a courier, and Loa looks at her suspiciously and asks why she has that strange accent. Sonia calmly explains Masha probably wants to change how she speaks. Masha agrees, saying the weird-faced trio from earlier called her a pumpkin, and even after they apologized, the words still stung. Loa bluntly tells her she should not care about things like that. Sonia gently says girls are sensitive about such things and that they all want to be called cute. Masha quickly denies she cares and says her reason is different and refuses to put the accent issue aside. Sasha tells them to gather as many materials as they want, will carry anything Loa's item box can't hold, and reminds them she's charging a fee to save up for her merchant dream as Loa approaches a freshly defeated monster and begins butchering. Masha stops him and says the part he's cutting up won't sell for much, and Loa seems confused since a heat boar skin costs about 6,000 mure. Masha explains heat boars become common in summer, so their value falls sharply. The tusks are worth more because most adventurers leave them behind for being too large, but Loa can carry them easily with an item box. Noticing Masha's insight, Loa leaves the lighter materials to her and focuses on the more valuable parts like tusks and claws. While they butcher the monster, another heat borer watches them from behind, but that heat borer cannot see the other heat borer. Loa notices, sealing that boar's fate, and 3 days later, the three of them, they are back at the Almont Guild. Loa and Sonia are thrilled by the large sum they earned selling the materials Masha recommended. Masha is happy with her earnings and excitedly says she will buy a horse carriage with the money. Loa asks if she plans to quit her job as a transporter. Masha replies that she is thinking of going to Nur Hem, the royal castle. Once settled there, Masha promises to pay him back 100 times what she owes. Hearing another new accent, Loa just hopes Masha will pick one and stick with it. Before leaving, Masha says goodbye and asks them to visit if they ever come to the capital, and Loa and Sonia happily wave her off. After Masha leaves, Sonia smiles and says Masha is always so cheerful. Loa agrees and says hiring a transporter was a smart move. Thanks to Masha, they learned the value of the materials and she got the money to pursue her dream. Sonia thinks quietly that Masha is a great person. He mumbles that if Masha hadn't been there, they might have had more time alone. It's a quiet admission, but Loa is totally clueless about love. He simply says it will be easier to fight with just the two of them. Later that night, Sonia cannot sleep. She tosses and turns, frustrated that Loa is so slow to understand. She had almost confessed her feelings, and he still did not get it. Loa must have had a rough awakening the next morning. On the 5th floor of the Almont dungeon, Loa and Sonia face a rank C monster called the Flame Buffalo, which chases Sonia while she skillfully leads it straight toward Loa. He finishes it off with his skill, Surface Water Ball. Sonia praises his timing, and Loa thanks her modestly. And the good news is, they have finally reached their target levels, with Loa at level 501 and Sonia at level 516. Loa opens his status window excitedly and shows Sonia the new spell he plans to get. Water Cloud Murasami, which costs 500 levels and has a mono cost of about 1,000. And he admits the mono cost is a bit high, but the damage it promises is powerful. Just as he smiles at the idea of buying it, Sonia appears behind him with a dark aura and calls his name in a serious tone, scolding him for even thinking of buying the spell inside the dungeon, and warning that dropping back to level 1 there without a proper recovery plan would be too dangerous. Lois sulks, insisting he really wants it, but Sonia stays firm. Watching the exchange, they look like a married couple, the compliant husband being scolded by his stern wife. Leaving the dungeon, they return to the guild where Loa is pleased to learn the 15 rank C magic stones they submitted earned them 90,000 mure. After staying at a fairly expensive inn, he wishes they'd earned a bit more. Sonia suggests they try the 6th floor next, hoping to find rarer, more valuable materials. As they plan, Slay interrupts and warns that going to the 6th floor without A-rank status is too reckless. Loa immediately cuts him off, annoyed by his unsolicited opinion, and tells him to take his arrogance elsewhere. Slay says he didn't mean it arrogantly, and offers to buy them a meal in exchange for useful information. Soon after, the three sit at a table staring at a spread of delicious food. Loa and Sonia are practically drooling, and they ask if he is really paying for all of it and slate it. He tells them not to be shy and to help themselves. Loa picks up a steak and asks what that undercooked meat is called. Slay tells him it is called medium rare. True to form, Loa cries tears of joy after tasting it, so moved by the flavor that Slay turns to Sonia and asks what Loa normally eats, and Sonia hesitates before saying he eats caterpillars. Slay introduces himself formally as an A-rank mage. Sonia gives her name and it catches his attention, so he asks whether they've met before. Sonia searches her memory but cannot recall ever seeing him and remains unsure. Slay insists he's seen her before. Setting that aside, they resume the discussion. Slay assumes they are new to adventuring in Alma. They are told the 6th floor is on a whole different level, with most monsters B rank and a recommended level over 900. Sonia immediately asks Loa whether that is higher than the extra boss they fought before, and Loa recalls that extra boss was also recommended at level 1000, and thinks they might have a chance as long as they do not get swarmed. Slay looks surprised they faced an extra boss and asks what their current adventurer ranks are. When told they are still C rank, he makes a strange face like he's holding back a million questions. Loa notices this and calls him out. Slay explains it's even more dangerous for C-rank adventurers because very few have cleared the 6th floor, so many of the monsters have never been defeated before. Loa grows more excited the more dangerous something is. Loa asks Sly if he is a mage, and when Sly says yes, Loa says they are one too. Surprised, Slay says he hadn't noticed because Loa isn't carrying a staff. Loa explains he was a swordsman, and only began using magic about a month ago. Slay, impressed, points out that a staff can shorten chant time when casting spells, and Loa is caught off guard. Slay says chanting opens the mana circuits, and that channeling mana into the staff shortens the chant. And Sonia notices the staff by his side and asks whether it is the one he uses. This line casually says he never takes chances anymore. Loa, intrigued, asks what that means. Slay reveals he modified his own mana circuits, a technique few can perform, and claims he could do it because he's a genius, making his self-absorption clear. Loa mutters under his breath that he once thought Slay was decent, but now Slay just seems like a confident show-off. And while thinking about the fight with Merrill, he remembers that activating that strange power felt a bit like chantless magic. Though after thinking it over, he realizes it was different, more like something subconscious taking control, and he stays lost in thought. Slay notices and asks if something is wrong. Loa shrugs it off, says everything is fine, and adds that he is happy to meet another mage like himself. His lay smiles and nods, Then, with a completely different look in his eyes, says that lower will make a great rise. Loa and Sonia step into a peaceful garden tucked inside the dungeon, a rare place that feels entirely safe and calm. The peaceful setting has no immediate threats and puts Loa in a good mood, so he gets excited and says it's the perfect place to learn his new skill. Sonia nods and reassures him it's safe enough for him to drop back to level 1, and trusting her judgment, Loa activates his new spell, Water Cloud Morisam, which costs a massive amount of MP, but deals 30,000 damage, enough to take down even a B-rank monster. Loa grins, pleased with the strength of his new magic, but a level 2 cat suddenly bites his leg and knocks him down, surprising Sonia, who gasps as he lies there defeated by a harmless-looking feline. That night, Loa and Sonia sit at a table in their cozy room. Loa sulks, still furious that a low-level cat defeated him despite his powerful spell. Sonia calmly says their priority is to regain his levels and suggests they challenge the dungeon's 6th floor in 2 days. Loa nods while sipping his drink, then walks over to the next floor. At the window, he remembers Slay's warning about the 6th floor's dangers, and decides he must reach at least level 500 before venturing there. Loa opens his status window to check his progress, then suddenly jumps up shouting. Sonia is startled and asks what happened. He quickly shows her the notification on his screen. A new feature appears, giving increased EXP gain and a level reset bonus that applies to him and his allies. The news shocks them both and they shout. A mix of excitement and disbelief. Next day, they head to the dungeon and confront their familiar target, the second heat boar on the 1st floor. Normally, defeating it would raise his level to 150, but the new bonus skill sends him straight to 250. Stunned by the leap in growth, Sonia says again that the magic creation skill is overpowered, and that at this rate Loa could become the world's strongest mage, while Loa laughs, clearly enjoying himself. He believes his dream of mastering magic at the highest level could come true. He pauses, growing awkward as he realizes how serious he sounded. Sonia notices his embarrassment and smiles, saying she'll be by his side to help him achieve that goal. Touched by her support, Loa gives a small thank you. Sonia gives a shy giggle and accepts his thanks. A monster interrupts their warm moment, and they leap into action without hesitation. They quickly defeat the monsters that follow, and after several battles, Loa's level rises to 610. Stunned to have jumped from level 1 to 610 in a single day, he felt ready to face the dungeon boss. But Sonia stayed cautious and pointed out that if too many monsters swarmed them, it could still be dangerous. They finally reach the 6th floor, and as they walk, they stress the need for a retreat plan if trouble starts, agreeing to secure an escape route to the 5th floor before moving on, just as they go over the plan. Suddenly, a monster appears before them. A red ogre with a subjugation level of 930 roars and swings its massive sword straight at them. Sonia leaps forward and blocks the strike with her shield, showing she is a steady presence on the team. Loa activates Water Cloud Morisam, summoning a shimmering sword of water and magic in his hand. He rushes forward, acknowledging Sonia's effort to buy him time, then launches his attack. Smirking confidently, he mocks the monster, saying it should take a few notes from Sonia's defense. The blade slices clean through the red. With a single flawless strike, the monster collapses, and both Sonia and Loa immediately level up. Sonia watching her level rise from 700 to 750 with a smile. Loa walks over with a proud look and reminds her he said they'd level up quickly. His level is now 730. Standing side by side, they are stronger and more in sync than ever. Their growth feels unreal, but they are handling it well. In this moment, they are not just an adventuring duo, but a pair of future legends. After taking down the red ogre, Loa turns to Sonia, who is watching their rear, and tells her they should fall back for now, but only after collecting the magic stones. His new spell has a 152-second cooldown, so if more monsters show up during that time, he's practically useless. Attracting more monsters is likely even with all the noise they've just made. Unfortunately, he's exactly right. Sonia suddenly stiffens and points behind him, her hand trembling. A massive horde of monsters charges at them, and panic spreads across Lois's face. Some of them bolt for the stairs, thinking the monsters won't follow them across the floors. But that assumption fails as the monsters chase, pounding up the stairs with thunderous steps. Panicked, Sonia gasps and asks what they should do. If they keep going, they'll be trapped from both sides, with monsters chasing from the 6th floor and more possibly waiting above on the 5th. Loa is just as lost. Even if his cooldown ends, he still needs time to chant spells. They need a solution fast. Smoke fills the stairwell and wraps around Loa's body. Sonia instantly remembers the smoke trap they found earlier, the kind that disarms people, so she covers her eyes and peeks through 2 fingers to avoid accidentally seeing Loa if the trap disarms him. But instead of screams or confusion, Loa's cheerful voice comes from behind her. He steps out of the smoke unharmed and grinning, telling her his ring of detection warned him of the trap so he could escape. And Sonia's jaw drops, clearly disappointed that her sneaky little plan to catch a peek of Loa failed, and her mood sours instantly. Before either of them can say anything else, Slay storms in and casually mocks them, saying they're as noisy as ever. Effortlessly, he raises his hand and burns the pursuing monsters to ash instantly. Stunned, Loa and Sonia stare watched as the horde that had pushed them to the brink vanished in the blink of an eye. And Slay smiles, reminding them he did warn them that the 6th floor is no joke. They both thank him. Loa, clearly impressed, asks whether that was a fire spell Slay used. Admiration fills him as he realizes Slay just wiped out an entire group of monsters in one shot using an element that should have been a disadvantage. That is the kind of power an A-rank mage has. As usual, Slay turns praise into fuel for his ego. Smugly, he says elemental types don't matter against mere C-rank monsters. He claims to be a genius. Loa has no reply. Slay may be arrogant, but his power backs it up. He accomplishes all of this without chanting. Loa is intrigued. Sonia steps in with praise and Slay in a rare moment of encouragement and tells Loa he has the potential to do all this too if he applies himself. Some leftover monsters creep out of a corner, seeing an opening, and Slay decides to show off a little more. Floating into the air, he draws Loa's and Sonia's attention. Loa gasps at the sight of him flying. Sly casually says he's using gravity magic to hover. From above, he scans and counts the enemies. Then, in a calm voice, he casts the spell, Meteor Shower. Fiery boulders slam from the sky, destroying the remaining monsters in a spectacular display of magical power. Loa and Sonia stand in stunned silence. The cratered battlefield, the smoke, and the silence after the storm are overwhelming. Loa looks up with admiration and says he wants to be like that powerful, composed, and incomplete control of his magic one day. Slay floats back down and gives a real smile, saying he's excited to see how much lower we'll go, then waves and floats down the corridor, leaving them behind. Later, Slay walks the streets near the Adventurers Guild after cashing in his dungeon rewards, muttering about how much he enjoyed Loa and Sonia admiring him, his voice tinged with obsession as he relishes the attention, especially from those with potential. A few thugs step in front of him, clearly assuming he is an easy target. Unaware of the monster in front of them, they demand his wallet. Acts without hesitation. He strikes each one instantly. Slumped down, he grins like a maniac the whole time. There is no sign of concern. If anything, he seems pleased, like this amuses him more than dungeon crawling. His twisted smile widens as he watches the last ones squirm, and unlike with monsters, Slay seems to take real satisfaction in bringing down humans.